Hello
Hello,
and
hello.
good evening, and welcome to a new Food4Rhino webinar. Today we have with us our industry partners ShapeDiver, Edwin Hernandez, and Mathieu.
Hello.
Developers, head of product, head of development, computational designers, programmers, and they are going to show us today App Builder. This is the latest creation by ShapeDiver, and App Builder, allows computational designers to build dynamic and contextual user interface for online applications using only Grasshopper. This is pretty new. They released this new feature only a few weeks ago, and we are very happy that they are going to show it to us today. By the way, we are recording this webinar, so in case you miss a part of it, we will post it later on our Food4Rhino webinars YouTube playlist. And also feel free to use the chat, because either Edwin or Mathieu will answer your questions live, or in case there is no time during the webinar because they are presenting, I will collect your questions, and then at the end of the webinar, I will pass them all your questions and feedback. So many thanks to everyone for being in this webinar. And yeah, Edwin, Mathieu, feel free to start with the presentation and live demo.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Yeah, hi everyone. So I'll get started with some context and introduction to this new feature, and then in the second half, pass the presentation to Edwin, who's gonna go a bit deeper and build a really interesting example to showcase the feature. So we're gonna assume today that most of the people are already familiar with ShapeDiver, maybe not users, but at least have a bit of an idea of what ShapeDiver does, even though we're gonna show it. To begin with the App Builder, the new App Builder feature, what I can say is that maybe some of you have been wondering what does it mean, because ShapeDiver was and has always been about allowing designers to create online application using Grasshopper. So what does it mean now? What is new with this new feature, right? And we're gonna try to a bit put an emphasis on this and what is different from what already ShapeDiver already was before. So I'll start sharing my screen and give you some proper context about this. Edwin, is my screen shared? All good? Okay, you're muted, but I saw your mouse move, so that's all good. All right, so as I just said, for years, what ShapeDiver was is, first of all, a plugin in Grasshopper that allows to prepare models and upload them to our online platform, which anyone can do to some extent because it's free to create an account and start uploading your models to ShapeDiver. And once your model is online, what it does is create this online interface based on your Grasshopper model, which already creates this like fixed static interface from the Grasshopper definition and reproduces the list of parameters you have in your model, whether it's be color swatches, sliders, value lists, etc. And on the left, an online viewer using the materials that you could define from Grasshopper as well. Right. We also can have file exports and all of these features directly from inside this, what we call the model view page of the ShapeDiver platform. And that's, to some extent, you could already call an online application, if you will. But it's limited to static interfaces. It's limited to one layout like this. And here, as you can see, it's inside the ShapeDiver platform. You can also embed it with an iframe, but it's gonna always have these constraints pretty much. And parallel to that, for now many years, what you can do once your Grasshopper definitions are uploaded to ShapeDiver is consume them not through this online platform interface, but through our APIs, primarily our viewer API, in order to take your model and build something that's a bit more adapted to your website, a more complex interface, so with really custom UI elements, but also with other features that you can interact to directly in the viewer, for example, here. And for years, what we've been, trying to go understand through the usage of all our users and customers and the use cases that they were trying to solve is how to bridge better the gap between this first level, the simple ShapeDiver interface, which is really accessible to anyone just by using Grasshopper, and this level of web application, custom web applications with custom layouts and more advanced interactions with the model, which was only available through our APIs, which means for developers, let's say. And our new app builder feature is really aimed at bridging this gap as much as possible. We think with this first version that we're going to show today, we already reached a level which is very interesting for our users. And we'll keep obviously improving on this feature in order to bridge better and better this gap and allow more and more control for the designers, for the Grasshopper users directly from inside Grasshopper. So what I can say is that, okay, so we had this model view page, and what we want is to allow the creation of more complex web applications. What does it mean complex? We still stay in a sort of framework where the type of applications we want to allow are single page application, but with a layout that is not just made of one viewer on the left and one container with all the parameters and exports on the right, but allows more flexibility, a layout that can have more containers in different locations, that is also completely responsive, of course, and where basically we can have this organization inside a tree of UI elements that are organized on the screen. So here you have one example of that, how that could work for a furniture customizer, where we define two what we call containers on the top level, one that contains parameters that influence the model, and one that contains results that shows data exports, data visualization, file exports, for example. What we have on under the level of container is the level of tabs. So each container in your web application can further be separated into individual tabs to organize the data and the information better. And then we get to the level of widgets, which is, let's say, the fundamental building block of the web applications you can build with the app builder. And here in my example, I have widgets containing parameters. That's one fundamental widget. One widget showing an image. And we'll see that since this documentation was started a couple of weeks ago, we now have a lot of new widgets, which mostly Edwin will show at the end of the webinar. So if I go back to the start of the workflow, I can go again at the level of a simple Grasshopper definition here, which I kind of like packaged it in where I put in a cluster the main algorithm, which is a bit complex, and just show the inputs and outputs, what I call traditional inputs and outputs of a Grasshopper definition, which is already prepared for usage in ShapeDiver. So as inputs, we have a few sliders and a color, but also an import component of ShapeDiver, which allows to import. We have several, as you might know. We can import geometry, text, even streams. In this case, I have an import bitmap component, which allows to import a bitmap file. And then my main algorithm processes that and creates this perforation wall, with various sizes for the holes depending on the pixels in my image. And on the other side, in the side of outputs, I have two types of outputs. First of all, the ShapeDiver display components, which are used to display in the viewport here in Rhino, but also are the ones that are used to display in the online viewer once I upload my application. And I also have 3 export components. So those are the file exports, which allow to directly export files, according to the state of the definition from the ShapeDiver interface. I have 3 in this case. I have the input bitmap that was uploaded to the definition. I have the wall bitmap, so an image representing the wall, the perforated wall. And also, I think it's a DXF file that contains the curves, so more a fabrication file, if you will. And here, so that's like a traditional ShapeDiver prepared Grasshopper model. If I upload this to ShapeDiver, what I get is what one would expect, is the exact translation of that in the traditional ShapeDiver way, which is exactly my 3D view as I defined it with my display components and the list of parameters, just like I organized them here in my definition, which includes an image upload. So for example, I can upload one just to show that it works, and the sliders and traditional parameters that I defined in Grasshopper. On top of that, I have my second category here of exports and outputs, which contains buttons to download the 3 different types of exports that I defined in my definition. And so where do we go from that to so let's say what we call now an app, which allows me to control a bit more the layout and go a bit deeper in terms of a full web application. Well, you might have noticed for if you're ShapeDiver users for a few weeks now, that we have this open app button now on the model view page, which clearly states that it's a beta, which reminds me that it would be a good disclaimer to say that this is a beta feature at the moment. So it is released and available to everyone at the moment. But by the end of the summer, let's say in Q3, at some point, we will have the first commercial release after the initial iterations. And of course, you will be notified when that's the case. But all the features that we push are already available for everyone to test at the moment. So here, if you click on this Open App button, what you will get is something not so exciting at the moment, because essentially what this will show you is an interface that is not exactly the same as the model view page, but extremely similar. You have the same parameters available in the parameters tab, where you can do the same interactions as on the platform, and the list of exports, just like you also have in your model view page. Essentially, this app here is the default app that you can consume and look at after you upload a model to ShapeDiver if you've not been using the new app builder components inside Grasshopper. Essentially, that's okay. You have not curated a custom web application inside Grasshopper, but you can still open your model as an app. And what we're going to do is use the default behavior, which is the organization, the traditional way to organize your parameters and your exports in the app. So of course, that's not showing you anything new at the moment. But what is interesting is that now I can go back to my Grasshopper definition and start telling directly, explaining directly in the definition how I want to organize my web application, so my app after upload. And here I can go back quickly to the, I'm already lost in my tabs. Where was my documentation? Okay, I can go from here. I can go back quickly to the documentation page I was showing here, where we have this conceptual way of organizing an application. And essentially, this translates pretty literally in the way you can organize the app builder components inside Grasshopper to create the tree that defines your web application, right? So here, I can use these new components to define a complete application, and then tell Grasshopper, in my application, I will have two containers in this example here, which each contain tabs, widgets, elements, etc., and trickle down to control my layout in a very explicit way inside Grasshopper. So I can now go back in Grasshopper and translate this into this example here, okay, where I started from the definition I showed you earlier with the traditional inputs and outputs. And here I already prepared what I call the app builder logic. So the additional components which are going to explain how to build this application. And again, it's a bit counterintuitive normally because we are used to read Grasshopper like a book from left to right. But to explain how this is organized here, it's better to start from the top of the tree, from the app, and then go down in the different elements that constitute this application that I built. So in order to overwrite the default organization of the web application, as I showed it briefly earlier, the main thing you need is to add this app component that allows you to define, okay, I'm going to override default and I want to organize my own layout in the application. And here from the complete app, what I can do is trickle down, okay, I know how I want to organize, and this is going to match pretty much the example I had earlier. On the left, I'm going to have my inputs, more or less, and on the right, I will show some data outputs, exports, results, etc. Of course, this is just a suggestion. The apps can be organized as you wish. But for now, all the apps you build are based on one template. We'll explain this a bit more at the end of the webinar. But the default template that we have to build apps use reserved names for the containers you can add to your application. And in this default template, there are 4 reserved names for containers you can use: left, right, up, and top and bottom, which define, as their name make explicit, 4 different types of container around the screen, which are always organized around the viewer, which is the central element of the screen. In the future, we'll have variations of this template depending on use cases. What we expect here is a dialectical feedback from our users to see and start branching the template in several ones that are interesting in different types of applications. In my example, I'm just using a left container and a right container. And as you can see, I now, in my left container, will start listing which parameters I want to add to the application. And in order to define which parameters of your definition are added to the application, you can build a parameter widget, so using the parameter widget component, and simply send the list of parameter names that you want to show in the final application. So this is really taking a contrasting approach to the traditional way to do this in ShapeDiver, where typically we process all the parameters you have in your definition, and we look at the order in which they are in your on the canvas, and we just dump all of this in the ShapeDiver application model, and you can see everything. Here, the idea is that you explicitly curate what will be part of your application. In my case, I think I listed all of the parameters, but I could choose to not list some of them and they would never be shown, of course. What I have in my in this left container on top of this is that I already have some logic, but this will be explained more by Edwin in his advanced application after. But I have on top of the parameters an image widget, which shows the image that was uploaded by users in case it's there, otherwise it stays empty. So I can also, you can already see that I can contextually define elements, whether or not I show elements in my definition based on the state of my grasshopper definition. So without going into too much details about each of the widgets here, because I want to give an overview, in my right container here, I separated my content into two different tabs. One I called Analysis and one that I call Exports. For tabs, I can also define an icon name. We have a library of icons you can use and add an icon on top of the name for each of the tabs. And here, my two tabs show, on the one hand, some data output. So again, an image showing the different perforations on my wall. And here I add also a chart widget, which shows the size of the repartition of hole sizes that I have in my wall. And I'm adding also a table using a text widget. And the reason I can do that is that you can use a text widget and add text to the applications that you'll build with the app builder. And those text widgets support Markdown. So you can really use headings, links, add colors even, and also format tables and add tables to the display on the screen. And the last thing I'm adding to my application here is in the last tabs is the export. So I'm also here explicitly listing in another parameter widget the export buttons corresponding to export components I have in my definition, so the ones I defined here, that I want to add to the interface. Right. So I went a bit quickly on the whole workflow here because I want to give an overview before we have a more in-depth example in a minute. But now that I prepared and used this new app builder component to my definition, I can upload my file again to ShapeDiver. And here I'm saving a minute because I already did it, of course. I just have to find it here. And you'll notice that for now, in the future, we'll give some hints that, you know, the app builder components have been used and reflect them, at least to some extent, in the model view page. But for now, the interface you have in the model view page after you've uploaded your model is very similar. It's not using the app builder components. It's just showing the core functionality of the definition you created. But now, if I open the app again, the interface I'm going to see is going to reflect directly the way I organized my app inside Grasshopper. So as I went through the various elements that I added to my definition right now, you can see that I have my model, my parameters on the right here. I can again upload the file here. And that on the left, it's also contextual. So right now there's nothing because I did not have an image uploaded. But as soon as I have one, I get in my analysis this here. This is my usual type of silly examples. Just an image I built with the Squid plugin inside Grasshopper, showing different colors for the holes depending on their size, and with the corresponding graph that shows the repartition of holes. Here, for example, we can see that since it's a black and white image, there's a lot of very big and very small holes and few from the medium sizes. And also here I can see my text widget that contains a table with the repartition of the number of holes per hole size. Right, and I have on top of that my exports tab where I can download the files I created also as part of my definition. Here I can download my DXF and open it directly inside Grasshopper. And I have my production file. All right, so that's pretty much the, let's say, the overview I wanted to give of the workflow that you need to follow in order to build applications. And now Edwin will go a bit deeper into, well, the logic you can include in the definition and how it can help you organize and really save space and time when you build your applications, and also the more advanced components we have for building data visualization elements. So I'll stop sharing, and Edwin, you can take it over.
Do you see my screen?
Yes, you're in.
You see Grasshopper now? Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So so here we have Grasshopper definition, in which we have a, let's say, a traditional neighborhood in Barcelona, and the idea is that we want to analyze something in this neighborhood. So to be able to analyze, we need some graphs, and we need to also control our parameters, because the amount of parameters that we have in this definition can exponentially grow. No, so if we have here 9 blocks, and each block can have, I think, up to 16 buildings, and each building I can control its height and other parameters, then you can see how you start to multiply, and you end up with hundreds of parameters, which is basically what I have here. You can see I have many parameters here, which, if you want to give this tool to somebody, if somebody wants to, I don't know, an architect that is analyzing a neighborhood in Barcelona, or wants to do an analysis with a user-friendly application, you don't want to give them all of these parameters like that. You want to give them some order. So if you upload this to ShapeDiver, as Mathieu explained, you will get the traditional application of ShapeDiver with all of these parameters here without any extra logic. They are only displayed, and that's it. So as you can see, well, there's many of them, and let's say the user has to spend some time to even try to understand, to begin with, how this application works, like how many parameters I have here. I want to actually edit this specific area of the building, so I have to find the parameter, etc. So for example, if we go to building floors, like we have all of those parameters, so it's lots and lots of parameters. So then is when we have the app builder. No? How do we then control this logic also through Grasshopper? So before, as Matt explained, we needed to use web development for that. Now you can use Grasshopper. So here I have, well, all of this part is for the, all of this part is for the actual creation of the geometry, but this part is the one where we want to focus, that is the app builder. So here we have the parameter UI logic. So here I'm just using traditional ShapeDiver, traditional Grasshopper components to get out the parameters that are relevant in the specific moment. So for example, I have a parameter here called block to edit. So this one is mainly aimed for the app builder. So I just want the user to tell me which specific block I want to edit. So if I start to move here, you can see that the color of the block starts to change. But additionally, here, I am selecting the parameters that are relevant. No? So I know the names of the parameters. Of course, I give them a logical name that I can then repeat. So for example, block slash size, block, that's not slash, that's dash, I think, block dash corner, etc. So I know I can replace basically just this with the number. Is it block 1? Is it block 2? Is it block 7? And that's the replacement that I do here. No, I took this dash, and then I replace it with the actual block to edit. So at the end, I end up with the relevant parameters. So in this case, we have block 3, and all of these are names of parameters that exist in my definition. So block 3 size, I should have it somewhere here. Block 3 size, courtyard 3 size, etc. So I have a logic in the naming of my parameters, so that then it's easy for me to do a small logic here to select which parameters are relevant. So all of this is just simple Grasshopper work. If I, for example, say, okay, I want, I have this random generation. So if I want the generation of the floors height randomly selected, then of course I don't need all of these parameters to be shown because, well, they are randomly generated. But if I do false, then the user needs to then tell me the specific amount of floors per building. Then those parameters become relevant. So if I come here, now I have not just the general block parameters, but also the building parameters. All of that, again, done just with simple Grasshopper logic. Then I put that into a parameter widget, which is in the ShapeDiver plugin, a builder, and here we have the parameter widget, and I just input that into there. That creates all of the widget that I need, and then I need to put that into a section of my model. So in this case, I want to put it into a tab and into a left container. I will show that now, how it looks. So as I said, all of this is super disorganized here, but then I say, okay, I want to open this up, and then we will see how this reflects one beside each other. So now I have that I want to edit block 5. So if I go here to the left side, which is what you have here, my container is in the left. And I have a tab here. That's the tab that I have here. And this tab is called block. So if I check here, I have a tab called block. But this tab is still missing, no? Number of floors. What is this tab? That tab appears when I check this. So now I have the number of floors here because I changed the logic. So it's the same that is happening here. I'm just changing this parameter, and then automatically that changes not just my model, but also my user interface. So now I have a new tab with just what is relevant here, which is the floors of the block 5. Then if I change to another block 7, just so that it automatically hide this tab, because in this one I still have the random floors turned on, so it automatically hides it. And if I do that again, then I get again my number of floors here and just what is relevant here. So I'm now just focusing on the block number 7, and I can start moving my parameters, and you will see how that specific block is being edited. So that's for the parameters logic. And then I have another parameter that you saw here, a small one, the block to edit. That I added it here, so you can see it's just this one is always appearing, so I don't have any logic. It's just the plain name there, but I am adding that into the right container. This is the container component, so that's why it appears here, and it always appears because I don't have any logic here that prevents it from appearing. But I have more things here, which is all of these charts that you see. All of these charts were introduced like a week ago, like they are super new. And basically with that, I can then show information about this model, well, in a very organized way. So we have different types of charts. So for example, here I have a bar chart. Here a second one, but with a different set of, like a different organization of how it's shown, and then a round chart here. So this first one that appears here is the gross floor area. That's the one that we have here, gross floor area. This one is gonna do the sum up of all of my floors area of all of my of each building. So sorry, of each block. So here I have block 1 to 9, and I know how much gross floor area I have per block. So simple thing in terms of Grasshopper. So I'm just taking these boundaries, I'm getting the area of them, and then I'm multiplying by the amount of floors that I have per building, and then I do a sum up, and then I end up with the gross area. Then that I want to display into this chart. So I just need to use this chart data series component, which you can find in the app builder, chart data series component, in which I am giving it these numbers. Then that goes into a data set that is like you are grouping this data, and then that finally goes into the widget, which is the final component that groups everything into a single graph. Here we can see it a bit better with the second graph. The second graph gives us two pieces of data. It gives us the builded area, but also the open area. So in this case, I have that here as well. Similar situation. I'm just taking the courtyard rectangle. I'm getting the area of that, and I'm comparing it to the buildings that are around this courtyard. And what I do here is I have to flip my my tree, because I need to get in each branch the data that relates to each other. No, so in the branch number 0, I know that is the open area, and in the branch number 1, I know that is the builded area. So that's why in each branch I get which data is related. So I could put here more information that is related to each other. So we will get like more bars here instead of 2. We could get more to compare and analyze. Of course, I give it a name and a color. So a color per group. So I have this orange color for the builded area and this green color for the open area. All of that is parametric, no? So for example, I have here open parameters that I can change at any time. Here I don't display them because it doesn't make sense for the user to see that. But if I go to ShapeDiver, I can see that here in the display colors. So I could eventually change that on the fly to test out how it would look with different styles. And the last one is the round chart. In the round chart, I want to show like a comparison of the total open area and the total builded area. So that's why I just do a sum up of my two pieces of data that I was comparing initially. So I was comparing here each block, open area and builded area, but now I want to know the total of open area versus builded area. So I just do a flip here, I do a sum up, and I have these two pieces of information. Here I use a different component that is called the round chart data. It's also here, round chart data. And I'm using the same colors, so I can relate one with the other, and the same names. And that goes into the round chart widget, which can also have different ways of showing it. It can be a pie or it can be a donut. And this can be also a parameter that you can display then in ShapeDiver and change it at any moment in case you want to see, okay, what looks better. After I have all of these widgets, I group them. The order in which I group them is the order in which they will appear. No, so here you can see I have first the block to edit, and then each of these graphs. So it's the same order that I have here. And finally, I group all of that into the right container. That gives us all of our graphs. And then if we start to change anything here, let's say block size 7, if we make it bigger, then we should see here, then the block 7 rising in the gross floor area. And the same happens here, it's also raising, but let's say I want to have more open area. So I could go, okay, I want the courtyard to be bigger. And then, well, you start to see how you can use these graphs to analyze what would be better in this Barcelona neighborhood, how big should be the courtyard in comparison to the built area, etc. A final thing that I want to mention here is that, of course, you can style. You have also a lot of options to give some style to these charts. So, for example, here I have in the first one, this component is called the plot settings, and I have many options here where I want to show the x-axis, this axis, whether I want to show the y-axis. What is the name of it? So I know that the x-axis is called block. You have here block. I know that the y-axis is called area. You have here area. And I can also, for example, say for this one, because it's a single piece of data, I don't want to show the legend. Whereas in this one, because it's two pieces of data, I do want to show the legend. So what's the difference? Where here I don't have anything extra, but here I do have these two things extra. So it gives me extra clarity of what I'm looking at. Here I don't need it because everything is the same thing, no? The gross floor area, that's it. Here we have a comparison, so we just need more clarity of what's happening there. So all of that you can define. And that's it. At the end, we group all of that into the build app component, which is the one that Matthew showed at the beginning, this one, and that when you upload into ShapeDiver, it automatically will give you this for you to enjoy, let's say. Yeah, I don't know if there is any questions that we could go through.
We answered everything so far. There was a bit of questions that already are turned towards extensions and more new features that we can integrate in this.
Yeah, so
I think we wanted to mention two possible improvements on the app.
Here.
Yeah, so you can mention that.
So, well, as you could see, I mean, this is still not the best that could be done for this model, especially when you end up with so many parameters. I mean, here I use MetaHopper. I don't know if you have used that before, but I use MetaHopper to help myself creating all of these parameters and all of these parameters logic, no? But it could be better done if we could create these parameters on the fly. Now, if these sliders, toggles, etc., could be created on the spot instead of having all of these here fixed as well, no? Because you could imagine also where here we have 9 blocks, which is something that I have here fixed. So 9 blocks and that's it. But what if I have more blocks? What if I want to have 12 blocks more? Like this could exponentially end up in lots and lots of parameters, which are difficult to manage in this way. So eventually, we are planning on creating some components that will allow you to create these parameters on the fly in the app builder. So you don't have to manually create them. Everything will be done on the fly. And the second thing that you notice here is that I have this slider here, which you have to drag and then it change here, which is not the best experience. The best would be, what if you could click on the block? No, then if you click on the block, something happens into the in the user interface. Where if you can click on the building, so those are also features that are coming soon. So one is parameters that are created on the fly, and the second one is to be able to interact with the 3D model, so you can select objects and then do something with that selection. Everything again done, all of this logic done through Grasshopper, so you can just use Grasshopper skills.
Yeah, exactly. So it's what we have so far is really solving what a lot of our users over time have been struggling with. So these sort of contextual layouts and interfaces, and we started with this because that was the most obvious steps to solve through Grasshopper without asking users to develop a custom web application just to hide and show elements or reorganize elements like this. Grasshopper is really good at organizing data and for this type of logic. But of course, as I mentioned at the beginning, the goal with App Builder is to cover more and more ground, more and more complex web applications without having to code. So in this spirit, we really see the App Builder as being part of the wave of no-code development, right? And what Edwin mentioned, especially with the interaction with the geometry inside the viewer, I'm sure you've seen examples over the years of applications developed with ShapeDiver and the viewer API, where you can click and drag on elements and modify elements inside the viewer directly. And that's been for years available through the API, and the next series of components will add to the App Builder and also to the normal platform, by the way. We tend to use the App Builder now as like a playground to test and develop quick our new features and get feedback. but we'll have all these components that allow to define in the viewer which elements can be clicked on, and even elements that can be dragged and repositioned and stuff, and use this as feedback, so as input to the Grasshopper definition to inform the state of the Grasshopper definition.
Okay.
So I think we're starting to have a lot of questions. Maybe you can read them,
Yeah.
Edwin.
Yes, thank you very much, Edwin,
Carlos.
Mathieu. It's wonderful presentation. I think this is a great addition to ShapeDiver. And yeah, I mean, you answer the first questions, but there are a few more that came in the last minutes. For example, Mick Simmering asks if the app builder works with Shopify app.
Yeah, so that's a really good question. So just as a quick context for maybe some participants who would be wondering, there exists an integration to Shopify for ShapeDiver, which is, I think it is relevant to talk about this because it also very much goes in the direction of creating a website and even an e-commerce application without code. So there is already an extension created for Shopify, created by one of our partners, that allows to take ShapeDiver models and directly integrate them in product pages inside Shopify. Obviously, this has a scope right now because it can, Grasshopper models can get very complex and Shopify is limited in some ways. So not everything is possible there, but for simple interfaces with some sliders and value lists and stuff, that's something that already exists and is possible right now. Obviously, it makes a lot of sense to connect that to the app builder. So that's this more type of complex interfaces can directly be integrated. And then you have the end-to-end creation of a professional web applications with actually no code at all, right? And connected to e-commerce systems, CRMs, ERPs, etc. So currently we're in a period where we're evaluating the status of this Shopify integration and actively specifying where it's going in the future. And it is very much one of our goals that the app builder can be directly integrated in Shopify. Right now, the only thing is that you probably expect some timelines, but I'm going to be in a very McNeil spirit and say that it's going to happen soon. But
soon.
I don't have a
Nice.
I don't have a date. Yeah.
We like it. We like it.
Yeah.
Okay, one more question, this time from John Gunther. Is there a way to use images as multiple choice input in App Builder?
That's a great question as well. And again, those questions are well connected with each other. That's a feature that would go well with the Shopify integration. When you have product options, you'd prefer normally to click on small image icons instead of having a value list and picking a material, for example, from a value list. So that's something we're looking at here. It's really, and it's an occasion for me to mention something I didn't right now. So essentially we've shown, Edwin and I, a list of widgets that already exist for the app builder, these parameter widgets, image widgets, chart widgets, etc. But we've thought about app builder system as an very extensible system where new widgets can and should be added over time, allowing for more UI elements and more control. So that's a really interesting idea of a widget where instead of converting a value list to a drop-down menu, a standard drop-down menu, one could specify a list of names and icons or images and create a new type of input inside the app builder for this type of input. And
this going to the direction of creating on-the-fly parameters.
Also, yes. So and here it's unclear because we have a lot of plans. You've seen what Edwin mentioned, what we mentioned with the new type of interactions and stuff. We have a lot of ideas for how to extend the app builder, and we have to prioritize everything. But what I wanted to mention here is that the app builder also comes with a completely open source SDK. It's on GitHub. You can find it in our documentation. You can clone it. You can extend the app builder as a developer, and you can even, we want this to be a community effort. So we welcome any pull requests, or any developer who want to contribute to the app builder system and create their own widget for their own application, and think this widget is probably interesting in a lot of use cases for other users. That's something that we would like to see obviously happen to extend the app builder system, right? So this widget with the image pickers is an example of that. I'm not sure if this is going to be an in-house development or if we collaborate with the community, but that's obviously something that sounds very interesting to add.
Nice. Okay, and the last question, actually it's 3 by Esha Jain. First one is if we can change the width of the containers.
Again, very good question. So here, I think I mentioned the template. I didn't really go into details about this. So first of all, right now there's a fixed template that has, these containers, these very fixed containers, which is pretty following, let's say, the standard single page application layouts. It's responsive. You can try it on mobile and stuff. It works really well. But it's pretty restricted. So right now there's no possibility to define the exact length, width, or height of a container, for example. When we worked on the builder, we had obviously big dreams of having not have to go through templates, but already have a parametric system that works so well that the universal single page web application can just be defined in Grasshopper and it's just going to work. But with time, and we worked also with users and on different use cases, we saw that this was maybe a bit idealistic, at least for the time being. And we decided to create this first template with the idea to say, okay, we're going to look on a case by case on typical layouts for web applications, depending on use cases that are needed by our users and by people who want to use Grasshopper to build web applications, and work on separate templates that would match, basically that would be solid for like one application, but cannot do everything, let's say, right? So that's the way we're thinking about it for now, and obviously it would be amazing to
You are
talk with
open,
users,
of course, for feedback.
Yeah, but
I would recommend every user webinar attendee to contact Edwin and Mathieu with your feedback.
Yeah, but I can just say that we're thinking as a second template as a more grid-based template, where you define a grid of let's say, for example, 6x4 elements, and define the contents of each part of the grid, which would then allow for a more flexible layout. But it comes also with the downsides. So we have to discuss. We'd love to discuss this with users.
Yeah, I guess you need also some real cases.
Exactly.
Real feedback.
Yeah.
Cool. One more question second question by Esha. If you plan to add the attribute feature to the app builder?
Yes, absolutely. Our goal at the beginning for the app builder was that, because it will be, by the way, we didn't really talk about this at length, but this is just like you can take ShapeDiver models and embed them with designer accounts. So the first level of accounts of ShapeDiver, embed your ShapeDiver models inside your website with an iframe. The apps built with the app builder will also be able, and it's already the case, that it can be embedded also as an iframe directly inside websites for users that have a designer plus account of ShapeDiver and above. So one of our first goals was then, okay, the app builder can do a lot more than a normal iframe, but it should also be able to do everything that the iframe does, the normal iframe, which includes attribute visualization. So we want to add this. We're going to add this. That's our goal in the coming weeks. But right now it's not there yet, which is also why App Builder is still in beta, because one of the first goals is that App Builder is really offering everything that the iframe has in ShapeDiver, plus all these amazing new features, right? So it's part of the plan.
Nice, thank you. And the last comment by Esha is if you will be able to share the sample files with us, with the audience. I mean, if you can put this maybe on your website at the FAQ, or I don't know,
Absolutely.
if you have a section for sample files.
There's now a complete app builder, a new app builder section in the help center of ShapeDiver. And there's already some of, so the one Edwin created is very recent. It's not there yet. But there's already a series of tutorials that can be downloaded, Grasshopper files containing the app builder elements to get started with the simple widgets and then progressively a bit more complex, right? And Edwin will have his example in the next few days. And yes, there's everything to get started there.
There was one question at the complete beginning. It was about the which price plan will the app builder be accessible for?
Yes, so that's what I mentioned really briefly. So right now the app builder feature is in beta, so everyone can create apps and play with it. And the users that have that can whitelist domains for embedding can embed apps and try them on their website. The idea is that at the end of the beta in the commercial release, we still want everyone to be able to create apps. So even free accounts will be able to upload and use the app builder components and create apps and look at them on the platform. And for embedding, as I quickly mentioned, this will be a feature reserved for Designer Plus accounts and above to directly embed in the website. So that's what it's going to look like. Obviously, we're in beta, and exactly the contents and what each type of ShapeDiver account can do will evolve, and that's also something where feedback will be important and we can discuss. But for now, that's a plan, given that App Builder allows to do a lot more than that traditional iframe, which is accessible to designer accounts at the moment.
Understood. Okay, Edwin, Mathieu, many thanks for a fantastic presentation.
Thank you, Carlos. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Thanks also to all the attendees. As soon as I upload the video to our food4Rhino webinars YouTube playlist, I will send you the link and also a transcript of the chat. And yeah, we will come back with new webinars in September. So I wish you all a very nice summer. Enjoy your vacation and see you back with the beginning of the school years in September. Thank you very much.
Thank you again, Carlos.
Have a nice
Thanks,
evening.
everyone. See you.
Thank you.
And see you soon. Bye.
Bye-bye.